I have received a letter from the honourable member for Canning proposing that a definite matter of public importance be submitted to the House for discussion, namely, this government's mismanagement of defence is making Australians less safe. I call upon those honourable members who approve of the proposed discussion to rise in their places and give the call to the honourable member for Canning.
Well, thank you, Mr Speaker. We are living in dangerous times, and this government is weak on national security. It's true, weakness is provocative, and we can't afford to be weak as a country, which is why we've brought this MPI on today. We know that authoritarian powers are on the move. We saw China and Russia sign a no-limits partnership in February of 2022, signalling deep cooperation. Since then, we've seen Russia invade Ukraine. We've seen the PRC launch provocations in the Taiwan Strait. We've seen Hamas attack Israel last October, and now we have Houthi rebels backed by Iran attacking global trade and shipping in the Red Sea. We are facing strategic disorder that we haven't seen in our lifetimes, and it has consequences. Consider the cost of these attacks on shipping in the Red Sea. Before Christmas, the cost of moving a 40-foot shipping container from Europe to the Far East was less than $2,000. Today, it's around $4,500. Now is the time for this government to act, because those costs will be passed on to Australian consumers. But this government is failing to secure Australia because they are weak. It's very simple. They are weak. The Prime Minister is weak. The Defence Minister is weak. And when your political leadership signals to the world weakness, the risks go up. The risks go up. People stop taking you seriously. They push you around. They eat your lunch. They conduct sonar attacks on your divers, and it's not good enough. And the Australian people deserve more from this Albanese government. Weakness is manifest in their lack of commitment to defence spending. It's manifest in their cuts to capability. It's manifest in the chaos and dysfunction that we saw last week between the Defence Minister and his department. It's manifest in the deferral of tough decisions. We won't see a defence strategy until mid this year, and our uniformed personnel are taking note because we're seeing more and more defence members leave the Defence Force, and this government is failing to recruit new members into the Defence Force. Last year, the Minister for Defence, to great fanfare, launched the Defence Strategic Review. And, he did it on the eve of Anzac Day, the old magician's trick, when the media is having a break, no one's really watching, and all the DSR revealed was that this government is not serious about protecting the Australian people. There was no new money to defence, no new money at all, and we've seen inflation eating into the purchasing power of every defence dollar in the budget. Now, what happened here was that the Minister for Defence at the ERC lost to the Foreign Minister, Senator Penny Wong. He lost. He couldn't win a fight there. And so the question is, if he can't win a fight at the cabinet table, how can he win the next war if called upon? It's a good question to ask. He is fundamentally weak, and this lack of money has led to cuts to capability. We've seen the Army gutted. The new armoured vehicles have gone from an order of 450 to 129. We've seen the collapse of 3 brigades to 1. We're moving all our Defence Force north, and of course that has consequences for retention and recruitment. It has consequences for retention and recruitment. All we saw from the DSR was pantomime and weakness, and it's not good enough. We now have questions now about the Boxer program, a big deal landed with the German government, and it's just not good enough. And in fact, just this week we saw that the Australian National Audit Office has reviewed defence major projects and shows that under the Albanese government, our most significant defence projects are running late by 37 years. This is just a consequence of weakness. We also see weakness manifest in the minister's deferrals and delays. He won't take a hard decision. Last week, Andrew Tillett in the Australian Financial Review revealed the pile of paperwork in the Defence Minister's in-tray, submissions waiting for action. In fact, we know that the Minister for Defence, even before these laws are passed, is exercising his right to disconnect from the very job that he's called upon to perform. Now, we expect our diggers and our sailors and our airmen to have a bias for action. Well, the Defence Minister can start leading with a bias for action and taking some of these decisions. How about a defence strategy from this government? How about the surface fleet review being handed down? How about a decision on that going forward? It's not good enough. This government is weak, and we're seeing that in the deferral of tough decisions. We're also seeing weak leadership in the chaos and dysfunction at the heart of this Defence Ministry. Now, last week we asked a question: why is the Defence Minister blaming his own department? It was in October last year, in October of 2022, in fact, where the Defence Minister stood up and he said, "The buck stops with me. I take responsibility." Yet we're hearing exactly. We're hearing in the media. He's got senior officials briefing against him now. We're hearing in the media that he's having a bit of a dispute, and he gave his senior generals and department officials a serve for their lack of excellence. And he got up last week and he confirmed it. He got up and confirmed it. So the chaos and dysfunction we're seeing is really a consequence of a minister who's more concerned about lowering his handicap on the golf course than actually making the tough decisions. Let's not get started on you, Minister. Let's not get started. I'm sparing you this, mate. I'm sparing on you. That's right. Is that all you've got? Is that all you've got? I'll take the interjection. So the real concern I have with this weak leadership that we're seeing from the Minister for Defence, and particularly the man sitting opposite, the Minister for Defence Industry, very, very weak indeed. Together, both very weak. The signal that sends to mums and dads out there who are sitting down with their kids around the kitchen table and they're asking about what should I do with my career, mum and dad? And I bet you they're not saying join the Defence Force, because what they would be seeing is lack of spending, lack of investment. They would be seeing a lack of leadership. In fact, they'd be seeing dysfunction, a lack of ticker, all those things. There's a long laundry list of failures, and they've only had less than 2 years in office. And there are consequences to this. So we're not being able to recruit young people. We saw Duntroon only a week or so ago, the announcement around the shortening of officer training from 18 months to 12 months as a way of trying to get people in. And people are still separating at a much too high rate from defence. It should be at about 7 or 8%. Under this government, it's been at 11%. We are losing people at 11% per year. Now, we have to grow the Australian Defence Force to 80,000 people. 80,000 people by 2040, because we need to crew our nuclear submarines. We need to have people who are specialists in cyber warfare. We need more pilots. We need more sailors. We need more soldiers. And we can't even meet 75% of the target we set for ourselves every year. There's a lack of message. Defence should be about service. It should be about strength. It should be about opportunity. It should be about aspiration. I tell you, if you go across the road to Adfa or Duntroon and you speak to the young Australians there who are serving their country, you'll meet some of the finest young leaders in our country. And they join because they want to serve, but they also see immense opportunity, and that should be at the heart of the message. And we're not seeing that. We're not seeing the Defence Minister stand up and sell a career in the Defence Force. So the question remains, how are we going to crew these vital capabilities? Weakness is also manifesting in the lack of action around AUKUS. A lack of action around AUKUS. Canning is about 35 minutes south of HMAS Stirling. We have a huge infrastructure deficit in WA. We're yet to see any works commence on that base, and by 2027 we're meant to be having US and UK nuclear submarines alongside, with about 2,000 personnel from the US and the UK. So there's no houses, and the base itself hasn't even started its conversion from a conventional base to a nuclear base. There's still no decision on the dry dock at Henderson, which the previous coalition government committed $4.3 billion towards. And we still don't know what's happening with the OPVs or the Future Frigate program. Now, we are meant to be building confidence with our allies. The US and the UK are looking at us and they're thinking, we are handing the crown jewels of our nuclear program over to Australia. It was a very, very important decision by the Morrison government that would set us up for success over generations going forward. It was handed on a platter to these people opposite, and the lack of drive, the lack of initiative, the lack of leadership, the weakness of these people means that we are behind schedule. And so the Americans and the UK, but more importantly, our strategic adversaries are watching us. They're seeing that lack of commitment. They're seeing weakness. And I'll come back to where I started. If you are weak, people will push you around. They will eat your lunch. And under this government, the only signals we've been receiving from the Prime Minister, the Defence Minister is weakness. The Prime Minister at APEC could not even raise the fact that our divers underwater, serving with HMS Kanimbla, had a Chinese destroyer launch a sonar pulse attack, causing barrage traumas in their ears. The Prime Minister was briefed, and you know what he did? What did he do at APEC in San Francisco? He said nothing. He took a weak position. It's a disgrace. And I tell you what, future generations will look back on this government and ask why you failed.
Time has expired. I give the call